The baby's cry hadn't even faded when Claire felt the cold of the sidewalk under her feet. It was raining, not just drizzle, the kind of downpour that soaks through your skin and spine like the universe was mourning with you. She clutched the newborn against her chest, her hospital gown barely covering her. Behind her, the mansion gates slammed shut like a verdict. Her husband, Ryan Lancaster, heir to the Lancaster real estate empire, stood stone-faced in the foyer, arms folded. "Get out," he had said. This wasn't part of the deal. Claire had married into wealth thinking love could grow. She didn't come from money, but she came with dreams, big, beautiful, fragile dreams. When she got pregnant, she thought maybe, just maybe, motherhood would soften Ryan's ruthless business brain. But he wanted no part of a nanny-turned-wife daring to carry his child. "I told you from day one," he spat. "This marriage was about image. Now that you've ruined it with this baby thing, we're done." No suitcase, no warning, no care. Just Claire, drenched in rain, a newborn in her arms, and a cab that never came. But someone else did. A black Rolls-Royce pulled up, headlights slicing through the mist like a lifeline. The driver stepped out and opened the rear door. She barely looked up, shivering and humiliated. And then she heard the voice. "Claire?" Her heart stopped, because that voice didn't belong to a stranger. It belonged to Ethan Vale, her first love, the billionaire venture capitalist who had vanished years ago, and the man she left when she foolishly thought marrying Ryan would lead to security. Claire's legs buckled, and Ethan caught her before she fell. "Let's get you warm," he said. "You and the baby." She couldn't speak. She didn't even cry. Not yet. But her chest burned with one question. How did Ethan know? How was he here now? And why did it feel like fate wasn't done with her just yet? Claire didn't speak for days. She and her newborn son, Noah, stayed in a quiet, glass-walled cabin nestled deep in Vermont's pine forests, one of Ethan's private retreats. There were no maids, no security details, just heat, food, and peace. Ethan stayed a respectful distance, only entering when asked. He left gifts, diapers, blankets, tea, and old novels she once loved but never explanations. Claire rocked Noah in the silence, letting the ache inside her settle. Her husband had thrown her out like garbage. The man she thought loved her never even looked back. What burned most wasn't the betrayal, it was how foolish she had been. She'd traded a real connection for a golden illusion. She thought she was building a future. Turns out she was the help who'd overstayed her welcome. At night, she cried into Noah's blanket, whispering soft apologies. "I'm sorry you came into this world this way. I'm sorry I brought you into a home without love. I'm sorry I'm all you have." But she was wrong. Because one morning, Ethan walked in with a bottle of warm milk and finally said what had haunted her. "I was outside the hospital. The moment I heard what Ryan did, I came." Claire looked up, eyes swollen. "How did you even know?" He hesitated, then sat across from her, voice steady but low. "I never stopped watching you. After you left me, I still kept tabs, not in a creepy way. I just couldn't let go." Claire looked away. Shame had claws. "I thought marrying Ryan would save me," she said, "but I sold myself short." Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he placed a manila envelope on the table. "Lawyer's name, therapist's number, and a startup grant in your name. No strings. You were always meant to build something." Claire blinked. Not a savior, a believer. He wasn't there to rescue her, he was there to remind her who she used to be. She held the envelope like it might burn her. Maybe this time, the climb wouldn't be for a man. Maybe it would be for herself and her son. 3 years later, Claire Lancaster no longer existed. She was now Claire Vale, founder and CEO of Noah and North, a rapidly growing line of sustainable baby products that had just made headlines for closing a $15 million Series A funding round. She wore Navy suits. She spoke on panels. She raised a toddler and built an empire from a tiny kitchen in Ethan's Vermont cabin. But she never once stepped into the spotlight with Ethan by her side. She made sure of that. Ethan may have believed in her, invested in her, loved her quietly, but this success, it had to be hers. Until that night at the gala. She'd agreed to accept the Women in Impact Award reluctantly at a New York fundraising gala. Ethan, as always, stayed in the background. She took the stage, thanked her team, smiled at the cameras, and then she froze. In the crowd's second row, dead center, sat Ryan. Perfect suit, crooked smile, holding a glass of champagne like nothing ever happened. She felt her palms sweat. He didn't blink. He knew exactly who she was. And he was here. The after-party was even worse. Claire ducked into the private garden behind the venue, gulping air, when his voice slithered in behind her like a snake. "Well, well," Ryan said. "Didn't think the girl I tossed out in a hospital gown would end up on Forbes." She turned slowly. He stepped closer. "I came to congratulate you," he said, feigning warmth. "And maybe talk business. Lancaster Group could use a face like yours. We both know you weren't cut out for the shadows." Claire narrowed her eyes. "You think I need you now?" Ryan smiled. "I think you want revenge, and what better way to get it than to take over the very company that threw you out?" She laughed, not with joy, but with the clarity of a woman who'd already buried the past. "Revenge?" she repeated. "You think this is about you?" Ryan blinked. And that's when Ethan stepped out from the shadows, casually fixing his cufflink. "Funny thing," he said. "Claire doesn't build for people like you. She builds so she'll never need people like you again." Ryan's smirk faltered. The power had shifted. He just hadn't realized he was the one out in the cold now. Ryan didn't take rejection well. Within a week, Lancaster Group launched a PR smear campaign against Claire's company, accusing Noah and North of patent theft and supply chain abuse. Anonymous rumors started surfacing online. Tabloids ran stories about her past. The CEO who married up, then fell hard. Some even dragged Noah into headlines, questioning his paternity. Claire didn't flinch. She'd spent too many nights breastfeeding in silence, too many mornings hand-packaging baby lotion orders, just to stay afloat, to let a spoiled man-child throw her off course now. Instead of fighting fire with fire, she hosted a live stream calm, clear, and devastatingly sharp. "Noah and North," she said, looking directly into the camera, "was built by a woman who was once thrown out with a baby in her arms. And I want every mother who's ever felt powerless to know they can build back too. Stronger, louder, better." The stream went viral. Donation pour din. Order doubled. And then came the boardroom twist. A month later, Lancaster Group's biggest investor, Vail Holdings, suddenly pulled out. Ryan stormed into their Manhattan headquarters, only to find Ethan Vail sitting at the head of the conference room table. "You're behind this," Ryan barked. Ethan didn't raise his voice. "I warned you," he said. "She builds to protect others from men like you." Ryan laughed bitterly. "So this is a grudge match? You're still pining over her?" Ethan leaned forward. "No, Ryan, this isn't about winning Claire back. This is about clearing the path so she can win on her own." That day, Lancaster Group's stock dipped 27%. By Friday, 3 partners had resigned. But Claire didn't gloat. She didn't throw press parties or leak stories to gossip columns. She simply kept building, kept loving her son, kept showing up. Because power wasn't in what she destroyed, it was in what she created, despite it all. The world expected her to gloat. Magazines begged for interviews. Journalists hounded her with headlines like, "From Thrown Away to CEO Queen, the billionaire who waited outside. Justice served hot by Claire Vail." But Claire said no. Again and again. She didn't need to explain her power, she embodied it. One morning, as the leaves turned gold outside her Vermont office, a letter arrived. Handwritten, no signature, just a return address. Ryan. It wasn't an apology. Not really. More like a confession of irrelevance. His business was crumbling, his second marriage failing, his legacy reduced to angry board meetings and fading headlines. "I guess I thought you'd come back," he wrote. "I thought you'd want to show me what I missed. But now I realize I was never even in the room where you became who you are." Claire stared at the page for a long time, then folded it gently. She didn't reply. Instead, she walked out to the garden where Ethan and Noah were planting bulbs for spring. Her little boy, now almost 4, wore a beanie too big for his head and was yelling at a worm. Ethan looked up with that quiet, steady smile. "You okay?" he asked. Claire nodded. He wrote. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "I didn't read past the 3rd paragraph," she added. He didn't press. He never did. She knelt beside Noah, helping him cover the soil. The earth was cold, but soft, full of things waiting to bloom. "Mommy," Noah asked, "are worms yucky?" Claire smiled. "No, they just live underground, but they help things grow." That night, she stood on her balcony, watching the stars, a mug of tea in her hand, and she finally let herself feel it. Not anger, not triumph, just peace. She had been broken, but she'd rebuilt herself into something softer and stronger, and she had nothing left to prove. Months passed. Winter faded into spring, and Claire Vale stood on the TEDx stage in a soft cream blouse, no power suit, no makeup armor. Just her voice, calm, direct, and real. Her talk wasn't about revenge. It was about rebirth. "I used to think losing everything meant I failed," she said, eyes sweeping the crowd of young women, mothers, founders, dreamers. "But sometimes being thrown away is just the world's harshest way of asking, 'Are you ready to start over for real this time?'" They listened, not just because she was successful, but because she was free, not chained to shame, not stuck in proving herself, not trapped in bitterness. She told the truth about being abandoned after childbirth, about sitting on a park bench with a baby who wouldn't stop crying and wondering if she'd ever stop crying either, about building from the ground up not to show them but to save herself, and about how Ethan never tried to win her back, just stood by, watering the soil while she learned to grow. After the talk, a woman approached her, tearful, breath shaky. "My husband left me when I got sick," she whispered. "I've been surviving, but I want to live again." Claire took her hands. "Then start small. A seed doesn't bloom overnight, but if you protect the soil, it always finds the light." That night, Claire tucked Noah into bed. He asked, "Are you famous now?" She laughed. "Maybe a little." "Like cooler than Spider-Man?" "Way cooler," Ethan added from the hallway. They all giggled. And in that dim-lit room, with giggles and warmth and no headlines, Claire realized something profound. The real plot twist wasn't that she had escaped the man who threw her out. It was that she'd found herself, and gave that self not bitterness to the world. If Claire's story moved something in you, if you've ever felt discarded, silenced, or underestimated, remember, your worth isn't lost. It's waiting. Waiting to be claimed, lived, and shared, just like Claire did. Tell us in the comments, which moment hit you hardest? And if you believe in second chances and stories that heal, subscribe to CEO Thong Lao K Stories, where every woman gets to rewrite her ending. You're not done. You're just getting started.